So, Assalamualaikum. Koi questions? Any questions, please? Or any observation? Please. वो भूल गए हैं हम पहुंचाना माइक्रोफोन. Sorry, Mohammed Abdul Rashid Sahib, you have left your usual place of perching.
Well, sir, it was a room to come forward for the prayer. That's why I came inside. I'll go back.
Huzur, a lot of non-Muslims, they attack Islam that it has given women less rights than men. And they present as an example the fact that the Holy Quran, number one, gives women half share in inheritance than that of men. And number two, they sometimes also cite the verse which says that at the time of death, if all male witnesses cannot be made available, then one man and two women should act as witnesses. And therefore they equate.
Would you refer to this verse, quote this verse?
Yes, sir.
Please. But let's first finish the first question. We'll come to it later on. ये वही रखते हैं मैं ऊपर बैठा हूँ ना प्राण के नीचे नहीं रखना चाहिए. As far as the first question goes, let's first analyze who objects and what is his position. Either religious people can object, they have a very definite position, and they can have only right to object if they present a better teaching in that regard. Or the irreligious people can object, so their position also will have to be sought out. As far as the religious people are concerned, here mostly they are Christians. So first of all they should tell us how, in what manner Christianity treats women better in the law of inheritance. I don't see any such reference in Bible which treats women even half as much as Islam treats them, or 1/10 as much. So if they are religious people, they have no leg to stand upon as far as their objection to Islam is concerned. In no other religion, as far as I know, ladies have been given any right of inheritance. And when I say that after having read some. I cannot claim, having read every religion which I read most consummately, but to my knowledge, there is no mention of women's rights in this regard in any religion whatsoever. So, as far as the religious world goes, Islam is the benefactor, because all the religious people who could object against religion, having discriminated against women, Islam can come forward and say, no, we have mended the previous omissions, and now we have started treated women differently from the previous religions. So no religious person has any right, if he is truly religious and he belongs to his religion, to object against Islam. Now before coming to the philosophy, now I'll turn to the non-religious cultures. Here in this Western culture, it is not, let's say, a Christian culture, but a Western culture. They don't give even women the right of inheritance. Not to mention women, they deprive even younger sons of this right of inheritance and give everything to one single person, who is the eldest, happens to be the eldest. So, what manner of objection they have against Islam? While they themselves have deprived not only women but also younger sons. So Islam stands out in equitable distribution, not only equitable distribution but wise and very considerate distribution of wealth. Now when I say wealth, inheritance is a part of it. It is the whole Islamic system of distribution of wealth in which the laws of inheritance stand as one section. Now, what is the philosophy? The philosophy can be only understood by understanding the system of responsibilities in Islam. Islam relieves women of certain responsibilities. So it would have been a very unjust Islam if Islam would load man with greater responsibilities and provide him with less. Relieve women of certain responsibilities, financial responsibilities, and give women equal share as those of men. That would be an unjust treatment. Because in the running of homes, the responsibility for looking after not only the children but also the wives is the responsibility of men. And whatever women have of their own, they are not bound by Islamic system to spend on their children by way of maintenance. It's their choice. They can spend on their parents entirely or their sisters or brothers, whomsoever they please. But legally they are not bound to maintain the family, while it is the responsibility of men alone to maintain the family. So in view of this, one could only object that Islam has been too lenient to women in the law of inheritance. Maybe 1/10 was enough in this case. So the over leniency is being objected to as stringency and constriction. This is not at all justified. Now, the philosophy I have explained. In view of this philosophy, the objection cannot be raised against Islam from any point of view, from any angle. The irreligious society or religious society, both must give way to this superior philosophy, because once the responsibilities are distributed, then the distribution of wealth would go accordingly in harmony with that distribution of responsibilities. Otherwise it would be an ugly religion which would ignore harmony. The second question, please.
I'll just read the relevant section of the verse in Surah Al-Baqarah. وَاسْتَشْهِدُوا شَهِدَانِ مِنْ رِجَالِكُمْ.
Please begin with a few verses before.
Alright, sir. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا تَدَايَنْتُمْ بِدَيْنٍ إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُسَمًّى فَاكْتُبُوهُ وَلْيَكْتُبْ بَيْنَكُمْ كَاتِبٌ بِالْعَدْلِ وَلَا يَأْبَ كَاتِبٌ وَلَا يَأْبَ كاتب أن يكتب كما علمه الله فليكتب وليملل الذي عليه الحق وليتق الله ربه ولا يبخس منه شيئا فإن كان الذي عليه الحق سفيها أو ضعيفا أو لا يستطيع أن يمل هو فليملل وليه بالعدل واستشهدوا شهيدان من رجالكم فإن لم يكونا رجلين فرجل وامرأتان ممن ترضون من الشهداء أن تزل إحداهما فتذكر إحداهما الأخرى.
This is why I wanted you to read the whole context. The fact is that there is no ill treatment of women at all here. When you read the whole text and understand the context in which it has been revealed, the fact is that number one, again this is a responsibility of which women are relieved, generally speaking. It is said that it is preferable to drag only men as witnesses and not to bother ladies in financial matters particularly. This is the one principle which has been laid down very clearly. That as far as possible, try to enroll men as witnesses. Now again, another inference which is to be drawn and kept in mind is that this verse applies only to such situations where it is in your power to get witnesses of your choice. This verse does not apply to any situations which arise accidentally and where the choice of witnesses does not lie with any person. A thief has come, a robber has attacked somebody, an accident has taken place, and things like that. All such situations which demand the witness of the occasion, whoever he happens to be. In all these situations, this verse is not operative. It only speaks of such a situation where you have a choice to pick your own witnesses. And it mentions of your choice. Then the Holy Quran says, ladies should not be bothered. Only men should be dragged into this. But if you must drag ladies into it, then it is better to have two ladies instead of one. Not that they are liars or they are not to be trusted. They are liable to forget things or confuse things in financial affairs. So this is a book of nature, and this is very true. There are very few ladies who are not confused in the financial affairs. This is an experience, common experience, that of trade and things. There are few ladies who understand matters, and most of the ladies would not be bothered with such details. And I know also that those farms which are run by ladies, it is a torture for the workers to serve under the ladies, because they remain always suspicious of what is happening. They do not comprehend the financial matters, and they go on suspecting that something must have been been done to them to rob them of their rights. Similarly, in trades, if you are entrusted with a lady and you give your account to her, then you know what I mean. Most often than not, there are of course exceptions. It is a headache to keep a lady's account, because they will not understand and they will go on suspecting and confusing things. So I have, after long experience, I have made it a rule not to keep ladies' accounts, not even my wife's. So the Holy Quran is the book of nature. It doesn't care what people talk about it. It is a book of truth. And Allah knows truth. Allah knows human nature and the finer differences between the nature of man and the nature of women. And the differences there are, nobody can deny. However loud one cries for the lib, women's lib, one has to admit that there are differences. So these are the final shades of differences. It's not a way of deprecation at all. It's not a reflection upon their character. So the Holy Quran does not say that both of them should bear witness together. It only says that have two witnesses, only one witness would appear. It's not that she is not trusted, but if during the course of testimony she falters and begins to confuse things, the other lady would be to help her and say, don't you think it was that and not this? And it will be only a reminder for her, and then she will say, yes, now I know. So in that way they are untrustworthy, that they are generally automatically, without any malintention, confuse financial matters and get confused about them. If a Western society claims, any Western society claims, that today our educated ladies do not confuse these matters, but Islam is a religion for the entire world. In most of the world, even today, there are nations lagging thousands of years behind. So it is not only a religion for Europe, it is a religion for the whole mankind. So because laws are made keeping in view the majority of the people who will be concerned with those laws. So still, even that, if that claim is accepted, and that should be accepted with a pinch of salt, not as such, I wouldn't. But anyway, if they claim, let them make a claim about it. But Islam is not only made for Europe, it's made for the entire world, and this is a situation prevailing in the whole world. So it's not a maltreatment at all. It's keeping in view the finer shades of differences of human beings, different sexes, I mean, and then given in order to help them. The whole tone of the verse is to help the ladies, so that one helps the other to be reminded in time, so that she is not guilty of perjury. So it is a help, it's not a reflection at all. Any other question except for Mr. Muhammad Abdul Rashid, who will be given his turn anyway, when there is no one to come forward. Mansoor Sahib, you come very occasionally nowadays. You are busy with cooking things? Good. I hope you are not tired. It's 4.5 months now that a group of 4 or 5 of you have been constantly cooking food and serving and attending to it. How can you perform both your duties at the airport and here?
It's a pleasure, sir. Your presence makes all.
No, it's a pleasure for those who eat your food. But it's the first.
I'm not tired, sir.
There is one companion of yours, one partner in this.
Yes, that's right.
He's sitting over there. Mr. Bhatt?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please. So, Nazeez Sardar Sahib, please. What is that?
Hazur, in the United Kingdom here, the parents and the children are faced with a dilemma in that how to bring up our children. What I got in mind is to give a short analysis of the situation. Our children go to school at 10 a.m. and come back at 3 p.m. And the situation in schools is such a bad one that there is no discipline of any kind.
There is no
discipline.
That's correct.
Caning has been prohibited by International Court of Justice at The Hague in our schools here.
Also it was prohibited in Qadian. Also it was prohibited in Qadian much before the International Court of Justice passed any rulings on that.
I used to have some.
But those were the masters who should have been caned for this. Those teachers who caned you should have been caned themselves for this indiscipline. Because I know once a commission was appointed by Hazrat Muslim Maud against those masters who had caned certain students, because the rules of the Sadr Anjuman laid it down very clearly that no bodily punishment would be meted out to students by the masters, teachers. Although I know myself through experience that they violated this law, this rule. Come on.
And the other thing, even the teachers themselves are dressed in a most objectionable manner. And the children come back at 3 o'clock. And the very next thing which they normally go for is TV for children. So it's sometimes almost impossible to stop them or not having a TV at home. I know about London Jamaat that many parents, they have tutors who come and teach their children Holy Quran, and some parents, they do give lessons to their children when they go for dinner. But frankly, I am not at all happy the way we are facing the situation. I therefore request you if you could kindly give us a guideline which
How many children have you got in your own home? How many children have you got to train in your own home?
I got 3 daughters, but they're all married now. So.
So those who have children, they are not presenting this problem.
They have
Those who are without children at the moment, I mean, they are worried. Why? That is the dilemma which I'm trying to solve. The parents with children should have brought up this matter. Now here is Dr. Said, for instance. He has 3 sons, you know all of them, and they face exactly the same situation. But with the grace of Allah, they are brought up so ideally, so admirably, that even many children in Rabwa could envy them for their perfect upbringing with the grace of Allah. So it all depends upon your own attitude towards children. The more the society demands, the more attention should be paid by the parents themselves. This is one of their responsibilities. As Ghalib has said, बहरा हूँ मैं तो चाहिए दूना हो इल्तिफात, सुनता नहीं हूँ बात मुकर्रर कहे बगैर. If I am deaf, don't cease to talk to me. Talk to me doubly so, because I don't hear unless it is repeated. So the demand of the situation is this, the dictates of the situation are these, that the parents should be really concerned with the upbringing and devote more time to the upbringing of their children, which they do not do. When they come home, perhaps they are also very tired. So you must ask Dr. Said what magic he applies to perform this miracle. He could offer us a better advice because he has gone through this. Or maybe Imran would tell us how is it brought about. Would you come forward and go to the microphone and begin explaining things?
I can't really explain.
Try.
I can't really explain.
Try it. Right from the beginning, as a child, when you opened your eyes and began to perceive things, what did you see in your home that influenced you so much? So much in the right direction, I mean. Tabligh perhaps, was it?
I think mostly.
Mostly, yes. Because your parents always got involved in tabligh. So you, right from the childhood, you kept hearing of these things. And it was tabligh which excited you much more than any TV program did. Is that right? Or am I exaggerating things?
Nearly.
Nearly exaggerating or nearly right? Now be honest and frank about it. What do you think? Give your frank opinion. You are off color today. You are generally in a talkative mood. Today you are very reticent. I hope you are not ill. Are you?
No.
You all right?
I'm just a little tired, nothing.
You are. After that siesta you had when you were attending the Quranic class, still you are tired?
He has woken up.
I think that is it. He's not fully recovered from that sleep. So?
Well, I haven't got the secret my father has.
Now tell us about what is happening in your home with the result that with the grace of Allah, all the 3 children are brought up admirably in the traditions of Ahmadiyya. This is a question. So I offered a guess. Perhaps because your parents remain involved and deeply so in Tabligh work, right from the beginning you have been hearing this talk in the home, and you have been seeing them excited about Tabligh. So you yourself picked up this taste of the religion and started siding with your parents as far as the religious values go. This is what I surmise. What is your own personal experience?
Well, that's partly true. I also think
that's right. Yes, please go ahead.
Which really they've always made us.
Partly you are to.
They've always made us do quite a lot of work, and also when we do something, they don't let us say if we say some vocabulary. They'll make us pronounce everything exactly. If we say that I can't go on the R's. I can't go on the R's. If we say something wrongly, they would correct us until quite a few times, until both of us could get quite annoyed.
That's right. That means that they are very meticulous about things in the home, and they pay a lot of attention to their children's correct behavior and the way they speak and things, and they go on rectifying things if they see wrong done. Is that right?
Yes.
So that is because they are painstaking in this. That shows they are very, very painstaking as far as the upbringing of their children is concerned, and the parents have to be like that before they expect good results. That's one lesson drawn. Okay.
And I think
what's the next?
And I think most of our knowledge is because we've been sitting with them while they've been doing Tabligh. So it's come into our brains from such an early age, which is another thing.
Yes, Tabligh also has to be very fast. Also, perhaps the credit goes to the children as well.
On varying occasions, sir, maybe 3 days, 4 days at a time, but at least half a dozen times.
Correct.
The first and foremost things is that they have in themselves perceive the correct Islamic values about life, and they take a great deal of trouble in imparting the Islamic way of life to their children. They teach them to respect the elders, to listen with care. They set an excellent example themselves, and they do not discourage them from asking questions. In fact, they encourage them to ask questions, and very often, even when they have grown-up guests around, instead of asking the children to leave and go and watch TV or play, they encourage them to sit around and take part in the discussion. I think that, and then I found that in their house, by the grace of Allah, they say all the 5 prayers in congregation, and all the children, although they're allowed to sleep after Fajr prayers, are made to get up, and they seem to get up very happily. I've had the privilege of being host to them in my own house, and at night the last thing that they ask me is to make sure that they get up for their Fajr prayers in time, because they don't want to be late for their Fajr prayers.
This is almost the whole story.
That is the secret.
So why can't other parents follow this example? In fact, generally people want to throw the blame upon the lack of provisions as far as the system or the administration goes. They think that perhaps by providing some schools from the Ahmadiyya schools and things, and going for some institutions looking after children, they would be able to solve the problem. The fact is that those children who are not taught properly, who are not educated and cultured at home properly, it is very difficult for them to learn at the institutions. Later on, they remain fixed in their certain attitudes and habits. So the first teaching, as Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam has demonstrated to us, begins when the infant is given over to you as your ward, as your responsibility. And the very first thing you speak to him is the declaration that Allah is one and Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa is his prophet and so on and so forth. That is Azan and Takbir in his second year. That tells us that right from that moment the responsibility begins, and it is very important how you bring up your children before their schooling going age. That comes much later. So once right in the beginning, in the infanthood and later age, early childhood, they have been brought up in the values, in the correct values of Islam, and imbibe the spirit of Islam. Then in the school they go with confidence. They feel they belong to a superior culture, and they are not adversely influenced by the atmosphere around. But if they are not well provided in the beginning, once they get defeated, then with a defeated mentality it is very hard to cure such children. So the most important lesson we have gone from the study of a small family. But I think there are some added problems in London to those who are living in such places as small towns in Yorkshire. The cultural gap between Muslims and non-Muslims here is much greater in London. And this cultural gap is so great that even the older English generation is feeling that gap between the older generation and the younger generation. The whole values and traditions of British schools are breaking down. So the havoc played to the new generation here is much larger, much more enlarged than in some other places of England. So luckily for Dr. Said and family and many other such Ahmadi families who bring up their children well, they do not live in London. Even their children, when they came here and they stayed for us for a couple of days, they noticed it with great disappointment that the British culture in London has deteriorated so much. They said while we were traveling by tube train, we were shocked to see people behave. So not as an Ahmadis, but as Britishers they were speaking, they were censuring the British ways of the new generation. So that is a big problem. That means less of TV at home and more of Islamic teaching, more attention than even previously to such children who are grown up here. For that I think if you talk of the love of Allah at your home, the love of the prophets, and begin to teach the stories of the Prophet from the Holy Quran, that's a very good of influencing them in favor of Islamic values. The fact is that the children are interested in stories. Right from the start, give them a taste of goodness. If you develop that taste in them, then it will be easier for them later on in life to go for that acquired taste, to satisfy that acquired taste. Once the taste is not developed at all, then it's very difficult for them to shift. Just prohibition does not work. With wisdom you must cultivate certain tastes in your children so that they are made happier with certain good values. For instance, these boys while they were here, however much I would try them to get involved in leisurely pursuits, play and this and that, they would refuse. They would say we enjoy your company much more than any such thing. And the worry of their parents was not that the children do not spend enough time with me. They were worried and they were writing to me from their home that we are of course very much worried that our children are plaguing you with their omniscience, omnipresence, is the word. They are ever present around you. This is our worry. Why? It was not that the parents had told them to remain close to me, because they had cultivated in them certain tastes, and those tastes were only satiated by their remaining close to me and to many others among us here in the mosque. So this is the correct way of bringing up your children. Build the tastes in the beginning. I quoted this example many a time before of my own daughters, some of my daughters, and it's a personal experience. Right from the childhood, when I saw Pakistan markets flooded with horrid books of fairy tales and even Hindu mythology and things, I knew that would totally destroy the values of our children if they go through these books. So I started, instead of stopping them from reading this material, I started telling them the stories from the Holy Quran. And while I told them, I learned a lot about the finer shades of excellence of those stories. For instance, when I started telling them about Moses, what happened to him and how he developed his early life, later treatment of Allah, later treatment which Moses received at the hands of Pharaoh, and in contrast, how he was treated by Allah and so on. So I saw many a time tears flowing down their cheeks, and the next night they would insist that please start from where you left and finish the story. So then I came to learn that there is huge potential of interest for children in the Holy Quran. If you start telling the stories of the various prophets as mentioned in the Holy Quran, by the time you come to Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have provided them amply with the basics on which the seerat, the character of Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam can be built and imprinted upon their hearts and their characters. So adopt the correct way of teaching your children, then very few problems will be left at your hand, on your hand. If you ignore them in the childhood, and that is again I stress, in the childhood you can build the characters and the likes or dislikes. Later on they will go out of your hand. Then the society will capture their imagination. It will be very difficult to wean them away from the false interests or evil influence of the society. So do it in the beginning when it is yet time for things to be done. Sometimes you're late and then it's too late. I know some children, some parents, for instance, there is a family living in Lahore. The father and the mother both were very pious and very devoted Ahmadis, but they were rather negligent about the upbringing of their children. And when the children did not go to Khudamal and Atfalul Ahmadiyya sessions or attended other Jamaat meetings and activities, they wouldn't care. So later on, when the children had all grown up, the father once complained to me and said, I'm really getting worried about my children. Of course, I'm not as pious as my parents were, he told me. They were great and holy people. But still I follow them. But I see something in their eyes and attitudes which is foreign, which is not the attitude of life. So do something about them. So my answer to them was that it's already too late. Not in the sense that you lose hope, but too late for you to ask such a question. Where were your sensibilities when they were growing up with that disregard for religious values? While when they were shown a picture of a new refrigerator or a hi-fi radio and things, they got excited, there was a glow in their eyes, and you enjoyed thoroughly. And you knew that they knew every model of a car, and when that car was built and what were the limitations and the capabilities of that car, and you took pride in that. And you knew all the time that they don't know anything about Hazrat Masih Maud Islam's teachings, and they never took pride in participating in Atharul Ahmadiyya or Khudam al-Ahmadiyya, and no pain appeared in your eyes for them to notice. Then I told him, as I see things, when they showed good results in the school, they saw there was such a sense of triumph apparent on your face. And when they didn't speak of any Khudam al-Ahmadiyya or Atharul Ahmadiyya class in which they had participated, the lack of it did not bother you. So this is very important to note that children are intelligent beings. They are very intelligent beings, in fact. Much more so than you realize. Children know the inner story of their parents. What they truly love and what they truly do not care for. So it happens, it works like a film, negative or positive. Sometimes positive is apparent and sometimes negative is apparent. But what happens is, if there is a negative in the heart and a positive on the face, the children would understand what is underneath. And they would always follow the true, real, hidden values of their parents. This is my experience. So apparently there is a negative is a reversal of the positive. So those who are taught in the traditions of Ahmadiyyat, sometimes their face values always remain loyal to the Ahmadiyyat which was taught to them by their parents. But their inner values have changed in the opposite direction. The children will not be influenced by the face values. The children will always be influenced by the inner, deeper values. If you have a heart in something, the children would know. This is what I mean by their being intelligent beings. They are so intelligent that they also analyze things in the home quietly, in a manner which you never notice. For instance, sometimes you tell lies to them to get rid of them. And you go on doing it for your own comfort and ease. When they grow old and you tell them not to tell lies, they understand, they say, we know better. It's okay to say to somebody, don't tell lies, but it's different to act. And we know when we were children, this is the inner self which speaks without words. They know that while they were children, their parents used to tell them to wait for this and I'm going to bring that to you, while he never meant to do it. The mother promised, all right, keep quiet, I'll do this and that to you, and I'll give that, provide that to you. And she doesn't, and the children know that she doesn't mean it. So after a few bitter experiences, the children know the value of truth and the value of falsehood. So when they grow up, this is the first deeper impression of the real character of their fathers or the parents, which guides them. And the superficial character becomes immaterial to the children. So I told that gentleman that this is what has been happening to your children. You are yourself deeply influenced by materialism, although you remain stuck to the religious values because it was not your choice. You had been brought up in a manner by your parents that it is too late in life for you to change your ways. So by tradition you follow that. And you were very happy when your children showed materialistic trends. Although verbally you would tell them, come, say prayer, do this and do that, but that was just a lip service to Islam. So things sometimes become too late. So before it is too late, you pay attention to your children, those who live in London in particular, because the toxic influence of London social system is very dangerous, even sometimes lethal to spirituality. So more so the parents should be concerned and pay more attention. As far as the Jamaat is concerned, one of the purposes of this European mission is to provide you with certain teaching, educating centers for your children. And inshallah, when things develop, it would be easier for you then, because part of your load would be transferred to the Jamaat in that case. But still, it is the first responsibility of the parents, not of the Jamaat. Once you have started them, give them a good start on in the right direction, then inshallah, I know the decree of Allah would take over. And the decree is this, that if the parents are really good and well-meaning, and if something very extraordinary does not happen to the children, then Allah sees to it that the parents do not suffer because the children have gone astray. Allah sees to it that they are kept on the right path. And sometimes, according to the Holy Quran, Allah is so mindful of the sensibilities of the parents in this regard that even after they have died, and Allah sees a child developing in the wrong direction, Allah brings an early death to that child to save that punishment to the parents who are already dead. How beautiful that anecdote is, which is related in the story of Hazrat Moses and his travels, and the philosophy of early death of some of the children. So Allah is so mindful, even if the parents are not there, if they truly want their children to be brought up, even after they have died, having left, abandoned their children at early age, one of the two things is surely to happen. Either those children would be brought up in the same traditions by Allah somehow or the other. Some other people would replace the good influence of the parents by other good influence. If not, then even that can happen. An early death would save the children from possible future destruction. So this is why what I mean, you shouldn't be too late. Because what regard you have for the upbringing of your children in the early childhood, that matters in the eyes of Allah. Even if you are not given time to see through the whole phenomena, the whole process of upbringing, Allah would see to it that it is carried on in the same direction. So I have to repeat again and again that it is the primary responsibility, the primary first initial responsibility of the parents. And whatever Jamaat does is additional. It is not the normal thing in religions to happen. Whichever religion provided you with such systems and tiers after tiers of the systems of upbringing like Ansarullah, Khudamul Ahmadiyya, Lajna Amaullah, Atfalul Ahmadiyya, things have been done so much for you that you are beginning to take it too easy for yourself. While in previous religions there are no signs of such things. So there are additional factors to help you, not for you to rely entirely upon these outside factors. The real first initial responsibility belongs to the parents and to none other. If you see and understand this problem as such, your attitude would be a different attitude towards your children altogether. So I think before I ask someone to call for prayer, I would tell little Imran a joke. He's very fond of jokes. And that is not very irrelevant to this situation either. It is about being too late. You see, sometimes you're too late and things have gone completely out of your hand, and even if you know the trick, you can't apply it. That is what I mean. Even if you tell everybody how your parents have brought up their children in their home, it is not within the means of everybody to follow them, because it is too late for them. The children have already passed beyond that age of receiving influences from parents. So the joke is about a wife, and an American wife for that matter. You know, in the modern days, it is the husbands in America who complain about the maltreatment at the hands of their wives, generally speaking. So the tables are reversed, are turned in favor of ladies in this respect. So one husband was talking to another and was complaining about his wife, how harsh she is, how she treats him, and how she deprives him of her freedom at home, at abroad, and doesn't look after him in any way, even is niggardly about her food and things. So the other friend, when he heard all this, he said, but this does not happen in my house. My wife is so thoughtful, so caring, so kind and considerate in everything. All the time she wants to please me. So he said, how come it? It's very strange. How could it happen? He said, well, it could happen, but it's too late for you. Even if I tell you the secret, you will not be able to make avail of it. It's too late. It's all right, just for the satisfaction's sake, let me know how it happened. So he said, well, I tell you. He said, when I got married, in those days, they belonged to a village, a rural area. So in those days, it was a practice for the husband to take one horse alone, and he would carry the bride on the same horse with him, share the same horse with his wife. So this was a custom that indicating that they had become one. So he said, I intentionally chose a mare who had the habit of stumbling. In Urdu we say nakhun lena. Some mares have a habit of stumbling, just missing one, one step. It's a special way, I don't know the technical term for that. In English, generally it can be called stumbling, but there must be some technical term. Those who know horse riding, they would know anyway. Let's forget about it for the time being. You understand what I mean? The mare had the habit of stumbling now and then. So when he brought his wife on the same mare, she stumbled on the way. So he said, I told the mare, that is once. So things were forgotten for a while, then she stumbled again. And he told his friend, of course, that then I addressed the mare again, and very firmly I told her, that is twice. So the third time, the mare stumbled again. So he asked his wife to get down and took the rifle up and shot the mare there and then. So the wife became very violent. She said, "What a beast you are. My parents have married me to a beast, not to a human being. Let's turn back from here and just leave me back in my home. I don't want to go a step further with you." After she had finished, he said, "I told her that is once." And that was that. He said, "Never that twice has happened." But of course that was too late. Once a lady has the upper hand, then it's impossible to dislodge her. So once the children have got the upper hand of their parents in their upbringing, that's impossible to undo that damage you have done to your children. That is that.